how the heck do I transition off of breast milk or formula to milk? So what about toddler milk? If you feed your baby infant formula and you're perusing the infant formula aisle, oftentimes you'll see like a toddler milk next to the infant milk. All right, so let's go over the baby to toddler milk transition. So we're gonna talk about milk and breastfed babies first because that was a really common question I got when I posted to my Instagram stories. And because it's recommended that babies transition off of infant formula after 1 year, milk can be a really great transition tool, or it can be a great permanent part of the diet that can contribute awesome nutrients. So for breastfed babies specifically, we currently don't have a lot of high quality information about the nutrient composition of breast milk after the first year of life, in places where maternal nutrient deficiencies are not very common, like in the US and Canada. So one 2016 article in the Journal of Maternal and Child Nutrition examined the nutrient composition of breast milk from 11 to 17 months postpartum. The authors found that calcium content in the breast milk gradually decreased slightly each month, less than 5%, so super slightly, but the variability of the data is huge. So if you look at the average of the graph, we see some calcium content of maternal breast milk for some mothers going like this. It's all over the graph. So this is a small study and it doesn't really give us a definitive answer to the calcium content of breast milk for toddlers. Now, in another research article examining the nutrient composition of breast milk in the first 6 months of life, breast milk was found to have approximately 20% the amount of calcium that cow's milk has, or 252 milligrams per liter of calcium in human breast milk for infants ages 0 to 6 months. So, if we know that calcium content is generally much lower than cow's milk content, and we know that calcium content decreases in toddlerhood for breast milk, then we might be able to say that, hey, breast milk isn't the greatest source of calcium for toddlers, although it does contribute some. So most of the research on this topic is telling us that dietary intake alone doesn't explain the variation in breast milk calcium concentration. So if you're breastfeeding, you can't just take a calcium supplement or eat more calcium to give your baby a more calcium-rich milk. So the takeaway here for moms breastfeeding their baby or toddler after 1 year of age is, do you need to stop breastfeeding in order to introduce another milk? Absolutely not. Breastfeeding is an amazing thing for your baby and toddler. It's totally natural to breastfeed well into toddlerhood, and breast milk provides so much more than just a calcium or protein source. So should you assume that breast milk is an equal calcium source to cow's milk? No, cow's milk is higher in calcium than breast milk. And truly, we really don't know much about how maternal breast milk contributes to calcium intake after 1 year. So we shouldn't assume that it's a stellar and awesome calcium source, although it's really good for other things. So if you want to continue breastfeeding and you don't want to introduce another milk, that can work really great. You'll just need to emphasize calcium-rich foods through the diet. In this situation, it might be prudent to approach a breastfed toddler with no other milk sources the same way as one who doesn't drink any milks or breast milk when we're thinking about prioritizing calcium intake. So I said before, we're gonna talk about some foods, including plant-based foods that are really rich in calcium, and we're gonna do that right now. So we know that pretty much all dairy foods are a great source of calcium. So things like whole milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, and other cheeses can contribute a lot of calcium to a child's diet, but other foods like broccoli, chia seeds, tofu, sardines, cooked white beans, oranges, cooked kale, and almonds can also be a really great source of calcium for your toddler or older kiddo. Just make sure that you're preparing all foods safely and avoiding any choking hazards, especially if your kids are under 4. So an infant to toddler milk transition, when should I start offering milk? So avoiding cow's milk before 1 is important for several reasons. First, cow's milk is low in iron and high in calcium, and that increases the risk for iron deficiency anemia when it's consumed in high amounts. And infants under 1 are already at a higher risk for iron deficiency anemia, so we don't want to do anything that would increase that risk. Number 2, some research tells us that milk consumption before 9 months can result in intestinal bleeding. So we do not want to offer milk beverages to kids before 1. It can actually be harmful because it could cause anemia and possibly intestinal bleeding. So if you choose to serve cow's milk to your toddler after 12 months, full fat is recommended, like I talked about before, because low fat can reduce energy intake, which can in turn negatively affect growth. So wait to introduce cow's milk until after 1, and when you introduce milk, make sure it's whole milk for your toddler. And I do recommend continuing whole milk well beyond toddlerhood, like I talked about before there too. And I also recommend continuing whole milk well beyond toddlerhood, like I mentioned before. Keep in mind though, it's totally okay to use cow's milk in cooking. So like if you're making pancakes or muffins or any other sort of baking that you're doing for your baby, it's okay to use milk in cooking, but milk should not be served as a beverage before 1. So that's kind of the key difference there. Okay, so you might be thinking, all right, well, I'm not gonna serve cow's milk as a beverage before 1 year, but what about like soy milk or pea milk or another plant-based milk? So other milk substitutes like soy, ripple, oat, or almond milk, those should be avoided before age 1 as a beverage too. Now, although the nutrient composition of these milk is different from cow's milk, and we don't really have any evidence to say like, hey, it might increase the risk of intestinal bleeding like cow's milk might, breast milk or formula really is the most appropriate for an infant's specific nutrient needs because breast milk or formula accounts for a majority of an infant's calorie intake. So before 1, if your child is drinking a milk beverage, which they should be, it needs to be breast milk or infant formula, not a cow's milk or another milk substitute. So to clarify, no milks other than breast milk or infant formula until age 1. It's okay to use milks in baking, but avoid serving it as a beverage. And finally, you really want to start to ramp up those calcium-rich foods as your baby gets close to 1 and then becomes a toddler and into toddlerhood. All right, so probably the second most asked question was, how the heck do I transition off of breast milk or formula to milk? So milk transition can begin at 1 year of age. Do I sound like a broken record yet? For bottle-fed babies, we really have 2 transitions. First, we have transitioning off of the bottle, and then we have transitioning off of the formula or the pumped breast milk. So for formula-fed babies, I typically recommend transitioning off of formula first, and then transitioning off of the bottle, just because this seems to be easier. So I'm gonna give you a step-by-step here. So you wanna start with mixing your formula as you normally would, and then filling the bottle up 75% of the way to what your baby would normally take. So let's say your baby takes 8 ounces in a bottle of formula, then you would fill it up to 6 ounces with formula. Let's say your baby takes 4 ounces in a feeding, then we'll fill it up to 3 ounces. Then fill the remaining 25% with your milk of choice. So whether it be cow's milk or pea milk, soy milk, goat's milk, what have you. Continue this for a few days. I recommend at least 3 to see how your baby tolerates this change to their regular milk. If no symptoms and your baby seems to tolerate great, then proceed to the next step. So next, you want to mix your formula as you normally do, then fill the bottle halfway up, then fill the rest of the bottle with your milk of choice. So do this for a few days to give your baby time to adjust. Next, you're gonna wanna mix the formula like you normally do. Fill the bottle 25% of the way up with that formula, and then fill the rest of the bottle up with your milk of choice. Give your baby a couple days to adjust, then offer them a bottle of 100% milk, and voila, you've transitioned off of formula. So you can adjust the speed of this transition based on your child's need and your pediatrician or pediatric dietitian's guidance. So once your child is fully on milk, then you're ready for a bottle wean. Now, due to the risk of cavities, it's not recommended to continue bottle feeding past 1 year of age. So once you've transitioned off of infant formula, I do recommend transitioning off of the bottle totally as well. Now, if your baby is bottle-fed breast milk and you wish to stop pumping or your freezer stash is run out, then I recommend proceeding the same way as you would weaning off formula. Just go back, watch what I just said, and replace the word formula with breast milk, and it'll be the same thing. So if your baby is bottle-fed breast milk and you want to continue pumping or using your freezer stash, then that's awesome. You can continue pumping and providing breast milk to your baby as long as you would like, because it's a great nutrition source and has lots of health benefits for toddlers. So in this case, I'd recommend transitioning off of the bottle first and then just simply serving breast milk in a straw cup to your baby, and then doing this for as long as you wish. During the time period that you are serving breast milk to your baby in a straw cup, you can either introduce milk separately or you can mix it with breast milk to help the transition once you are ready to completely remove breast milk from your child's diet and transition them to a milk or milk substitute. Now, if you want to pump breast milk and offer it in a cup and you never want to give them a milk or milk substitute, that's fine too. Eventually, you'll just have to stop offering breast milk. And in the meantime, you'll want to make sure you're emphasizing those calcium-rich foods like we chatted about before. So some people wish to do this transition over a few months, and some try it in a week or even less. This really just depends on each child's tolerance and needs, as well as the family's ability to make that transition as quickly as they need to. And last question about the transition from infant to toddler milk consumption. What cup should I offer milk in once they're not a baby anymore? Straw cups or open cups are the best. I don't recommend sippy cups because these don't encourage your child to develop the oral motor skills to drink out of a cup like an adult would. So like adults use straw cups or open cups. And so if we teach them how to use a sippy cup, we're teaching them a new skill that they're then gonna have to relearn to drink from an open cup or a straw cup. So I recommend skipping this stage and just going straight to open cup or straw cup. Now, the transition cups that you see at big box stores or even like on Amazon, they're just a marketing gimmick and they're not necessary. Waste of money. I don't recommend people buy those. So what about toddler milk? If you feed your baby infant formula and you're perusing the infant formula aisle, oftentimes you'll see like a toddler milk next to the infant milk, and the formula companies want you to transition from the infant formula to the toddler formula at 1 year of age. Do you need a toddler milk? So no. Short answer is no, you do not need a toddler milk. It is not necessary unless there's a medical need, like perhaps needing a calorie supplement. And in this case, you should always be working with a dietitian because not all calorie supplements are appropriate, and there is likely a better option than a standard toddler milk. So unless your child has a medical need for a calorie supplement as being overseen by a dietitian, you do not need a toddler milk. It is unnecessary. So the reason why toddler milk is not necessary for healthy kids is because these kids can achieve a balanced diet from food alone or food plus a milk or milk substitute without needing a shake or supplement like a toddler milk. I'm going to add a caveat here because there are kids who struggle with growth or certain medical conditions or certain behavioral conditions who might need the assistance of a nutritional supplement. And if this is the case and your child needs this, then again, you should be working with a pediatric dietitian or a pediatrician to guide you in this. In most cases, these nutritional supplements are meant to be tools to help you while you're addressing an underlying need. And if someone just like offers you a shake for your kid or sends you on your way without addressing the root cause, then you'll definitely want to consider working with another provider in this instance, because a calorie supplement is not a solution to the problem. Usually it's just a tool or a band-aid while your provider addresses an underlying issue.